one. Roll the footage. Welcome back, everybody, to the Strategy Sprints podcast. I'm Severino, your host, and today my guest is founder of Scale Your Genius and the creator of the Thriving Online Program Accelerator. As a business strategist and scaling expert, she guides experts who are ready to better monetize their expertise, further their reach, and design a life of abundance and freedom to create results-driven, profitable, and sustainable online programs. Welcome, everybody, Jane Sagalovich.
Thank you so much. I'm excited to be here.
So cool to have you here. You are living the dream from the Ukraine to Denver, living the American dream.
Absolutely.
And we will talk how to stop striving for perfection and instead start focusing on client impact, which is so important right now. And Jane, tell us, what are you currently creating?
Yeah, absolutely. So my core business is helping experts create online courses. And, what's pretty funny is if you had asked me that question about a year ago, I would have told you all the other things I'm doing. And when the pandemic hit, it became so clear and so obvious that this is exactly the thing that pretty much every expert out there needs, as our lives were forced into and our businesses were forced into a digital format anyway. So the only thing I'm doing is focusing on helping experts create online programs. It's the thing, we need when we're not allowed to see other people, but it's also a model that's so relevant even when hopefully sometime soon, again, we'll be able to do things in person. The online business, the online program model never becomes irrelevant. So I'm really just 100% all in on this model, which for my brain that loves to multitask, it's a hard thing to do.
It's super relevant business model. And people who come to you, do they come ready and say, this is the model I want, help me build it? Or do they come and say, let's improve my revenue, and then you influence them towards the model?
That's a great question. And people come at all different stages. So some, will kind of take the awareness journey. So some at the beginning just say, okay, I have this business, I'm serving my clients, I'm maybe charging an hourly rate, maybe I have a group program, but I know I can make more. And they've seen models, online courses being one of them, but they're not totally sure which model is the right one for them. So that's on the early stage of the spectrum. And so for them, I dive into their business with them and I help them determine exactly what is the best next step for them. And for some people, that may be courses. With other experts, I work in making their one-on-one services better to prepare them to then scale to the online course model. On the other side of the spectrum are the people who are like, online courses. Yes, this is for me. This is mine. They may have, they've downloaded the freebies. There's a lot of courses on how to create courses out there. So they may have taken one of those along the way and they still can't create something that they feel proud of, or it just doesn't sell. So those are the ones who really just need some fine tuning with what it is they've created to help them make it successful and saleable.
Let's talk failure. My first online course that I launched had exactly one client. And that was when I realized, I should launch before it's ready.
Mm-hmm.
Building 1 year and then launching. So I learned it the hard way. Do you still see this happening? How do you approach that topic?
Yeah, and that's a great question. And I know people say launch it before you build it. And I want to clarify what that actually means in a way that works. Because I think, there's the entrepreneur that's like, yeah, go, like that. They hear that and they're like, cool, I'll put a marketing, a sales page out there and then I get clients and then I build something. That doesn't work for most. That's a little too ad hoc. And when you're talking about creating something truly awesome, that's just a little too loose. So the strategy that I do think works really well is creating the framework first, understanding the problem you want to solve for your clients that are going to take that course. Then you start speaking to them, right? So I have a process I take my clients through called the Dream Clients Revealed. And that's when they talk to at least 20 people who are in their ideal client demographic about the course they want to create. So It's not validation because until someone actually gives you money, nothing is ever validated. I'm sure, you and your audience know that, but it does give you some feedback. It gives you some insight and nuance that you might not have known. Now, once you have that feedback, what I recommend most people have by the time they launch is a very strong onboarding module, and then module 1, and then a pretty clear framework for the rest of the program. So they didn't spend too much time creating it, but they put a lot of thought and effort into building the foundation so that when they do have a successful launch, and it's totally possible to have successful launches, they're prepared to build out the rest of the program. So it's kind of a combination of have the whole thing built out versus launch and then build. There's like the middle ground.
I learned from my boss. I had the privilege to have a boss who was writer about leadership. And then he would have 5 days per week of training on leadership. And he would write down for years, 2-3 years, the questions, the objections of the participants. And then he would move the content in a folder, in a physical folder, until it wouldn't move anymore. And after a couple of years, it wouldn't move anymore. He would give it to the editor and say, that's the new book, because he knew now the content is ready.
Brilliant.
Yeah. And so I try to transpose that into the digital world where we launch our stuff. And I do it similarly. I consult. So I use the tools and the content for a couple months until years, until I know now it's working most of the time. It's ready. And then it becomes something digital. What's the process that your client seem to have best experiences with? How to test, how to validate?
Yeah, and that is an excellent question. And I love the story you shared about, the physical folder that turns into a book. And the parallel that we use in the online course world is, so what I have my clients create is the first step is what I call a hybrid online course. And that is, they have the digital modules. That is what most of us think of as an online course. But then they provide group support and or one-on-one support. So they're having actual conversations with the people who are taking the course. So what happens is exactly what you're talking about. People are going to start asking questions. And when you get a question about your course, chances are there's something that wasn't very clear in the course. And I'll clarify, if you're getting the same question from multiple people, right? One-off questions, people will ask what they ask. But if you start to notice patterns, every single person or a lot of people are asking the same questions. That means something in your course needs to be clarified or added or improved or whatever it is. So same as your story with the book, once they stop getting similar questions about the course, then it is ready to be a fully automated experience. Then they can sell that, what people consider the passive income course that doesn't take, it's never zero of your time. We all know that there's always some that happens that needs to be upgraded, but that's the course that does not need your support. And so by having a support model first and fielding all those questions and understanding where the gaps in the information are, you can then fill in the gaps and launch a fully automated course product that answers all the questions that may have come up. Now, the mistake that a lot of creators make is they create just an automated course and never talk to the people. So, we hear about those ratios, 90% whatever of the people never finish the course. And if you're the creator of one of those courses who's not providing support, you have no idea why they're not finishing the courses, right? They're not giving you that feedback. So you don't know what to improve. So same idea. By having conversations with the people, you're able to help them improve. So you're validating it. But what you're actually doing is you have a high-priced premium program that you're selling to people. So you're making full revenue. It is a very profitable business model while you're learning from your audience, from your clients, what needs to happen for it to be a more passive income, fully automated course model.
We are discussing a lot in our community, group coaching versus one-to-one coaching. I'm so excited to hear your perspective, but first, one word from our sponsors.
Hey, if you love what you are hearing, you will love our free masterclasses. Go grab them at strategysprints.com.
There is much to be said about group coachings that can be an easy start into validating the content. They are more scalable. On the other side, many say, yeah, but real transformation happens only when you go deep one-to-one. What's your experience?
Such a great question. And I see exactly what you see. People jump into the group model thinking it is just like they jump into the online course model. They think, okay, this is the answer for me to scale my one-on-one practice. Group programs can be incredible with the right facilitation, with a well-designed group, with properly held group sessions. It is so much more powerful than one-on-one, or it can be, because learning from other people's experiences in many topics is a really, really powerful process for people. We don't know, we may not think of a question, but someone else in the group does, and so we learn from them. So that's on the pro. On the cautionary side, the first thing I said is it has to be properly facilitated. Group facilitation is not a skill most of us just automatically have. Many people have, and it's amazing. And if that's you, then a group program, it probably is a right path for you. Everyone else, I want to caution to get those skills, to fine tune the group facilitation skills. Facilitating a group, if you've been coaching one-on-one, facilitating a group is not the same as bringing in 10 one-on-one clients in one room and try to do the same kind of conversations with them. So if you do that, that's not gonna be a good experience. So the fine-tuned answer is groups are amazing if they're done properly. The last thing you asked was, can it go as deep as one-on-one? One of the models that I see working really well is group and one-on-one. So, and actually, and digital modules. So you have digital modules that take them through the process. The group provides inspiration, provides learning from each other. And then one-on-one, and especially if these are either really sensitive topics where there's some things that people just are not going to share in a group, or like really nuanced stuff. So in business, so for example, for my work, the work I do with any one client is not always valuable to other people. So I do a lot of one-on-one support because we get deep into their particular business model that doesn't necessarily have a lot of practical applications to others. So having those conversations in a group setting would just be a waste of time. So I think that was a long way to say both, all these models have a place. All of them can be done incredibly well. And I caution people to not just jump in because that's what other people are doing, to really understand what it takes to do it right and successfully. And to have, how do you facilitate that group program that doesn't just allow you to scale your time, but is actually beneficial for the clients you put into that group.
You have now the chance to pick one person for the strategy award. Everybody thinks this person, Zach. Who is this person?
You know what? I actually had to give it some thought, and this is surprising even to me. I picked Elon Musk, and I have this like total love-hate relationship with his Twitter. When I read his tweets, which is the extent of our relationship. But I love how he goes against the mainstream as a high-profile CEO. I know in the coaching space, that's kind of a lot of it. Well, it's easier for us to kind of buck the trend, to go against the mainstream, but we don't see a lot of high-powered, high-profile people do that. And so I love the example that he's setting, that even at that level of success, even at that level of visibility, and you can arguably say that his fall would be much, much deeper than a lot of the rest of us. That for him to have the courage to really pave his own path in a way that no one has before him and buck a lot of the common, quote unquote, common sense that we see in the business world, I think is pretty cool.
Absolutely. And I'm also a fan and an investor. And since 3 months, it went up 50%, I think.
Not bad.
Just in the last 3 months. So yeah, absolutely well picked. And so tell us more about the experience your clients go through and the challenges in creating online courses. And so what should we not do when we create an online course?
Oh, so many things. One of the things that I see really well-meaning experts do, and especially ones who have years of content, they think that packaging a content online is an online course. And I make the distinction of information is information. An online course is actually a process. Now you're using the content that you have in that process, but that's not what creates the process. So you start with a process in mind. You're saying, I want to get my client from point A to point B when they're a client in my course. What is the content I have that would support their journey? Versus what I see a lot of people do is saying, well, I have this book or I have, these blogs, or I have these worksheets, workbooks, let me put them online and call it a course. And the experience is just not cohesive. And that's what I call, that's free. Information is free, right? We can go on Google, we can go on YouTube, podcasts. I mean, there's so much amazing free information out there. What creates value in a course is the step-by-step process you're able to take your client through that creates a specific result.
I'm also interested in pricing, because we are discussing this also a lot in our community. There is this one model that says, okay, go free, and very expensive.
Yeah.
And then there is this other model of an ascension. There's always such a hard
Ascension, yeah.
model where you go in steps up. And we're seeing different things succeed, but I'm really curious about your perspective on pricing courses.
Yeah, absolutely. So, the blanket statement I'm going to make is you can make anyone can make any strategy work, right? The success is kind of in the nuance of it. So either one of these strategies can work. I'm a fan of the former one, free stuff and then really pricey. You're providing value, you're allowing somebody to get to know you to a level that now they're willing to invest $2,000, $5,000, $10,000, $50,000 with you. So the amount of relationship creation has to be pretty deep before somebody's, able and willing to spend that kind of money to work with you. So I am a big believer in a lot of free content for them to get to know you, to resonate with you, and then become your client. The ascension model, again, I'm not an expert in that one, so I'm going to speak kind of briefly about it. But what I see is, it's kind of, I use the example of, if you're going to buy a BMW, you're not going to buy a keychain first, right? You don't go into a BMW dealership and they're like, hey, here's this, give them the $7 and we're going to give you this keychain. Then we're going to give you the jacket. Then we're going to give you, whatever, the BMW backpack. They sell you the car, right? And so that's kind of how I look at the ascension model. I don't want to say it doesn't work. I know there's amazing experts out there making money from it. For me, in how I teach sales and marketing, is it actually has to make sense and feel good. So I don't need someone to pay me $7 to eventually pay me $6,000. I'd rather give them the $7 thing for free and then, inspire them to want to be my client some way down the road. So I'm definitely a fan of the former model.
And there are many examples, I think, where it works. If we watch Tim Ferriss, free podcast, high ticket event. Jerry Seinfeld, free show, very expensive show. Then Google, 90% of everything we search is free. Yeah. And then a very small fraction is paid, and it's good enough for them to make even very good profits. So there is something about it.
Yeah. I'll say one more thing. And I saw a colleague doing this strategy. And so what this person was doing is they had this event, the masterclass that I think we're all used to masterclasses being free. And she was charging $7 for it. And, masterclasses are a lead generation for us, right? And so when we bring people to a masterclass, to a webinar, part of it is to give value, but the other part of it is to build our list to then market to later. And so by putting, so $7 did two things. One, it created a big disconnect in the minds of the people looking at the sales page. They're like, why would I spend an hour to get $7 worth of value? That makes no sense. And then fewer people register. So then her list is much smaller too as a result of that. So not only does she not get the people that could potentially become clients, she also set this weird price ceiling in their mind of what the value is. And so, people who want to do the low price things have to be really careful.
Oh, that's interesting that from the client perspective, it says, I put in 1 hour and I get the value of 7.
Right. My time is worth a hell of a lot more than $7 an hour,
Amazing.
So that's what happens when we go cheap.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
What are the 3 books that influenced you most?
So the first one, and this is one of my favorite ones to recommend in gift, is The Big Leap by Gay Hendricks. And it talks about the upper limit problem, right? As we evolve, as we grow as business owners, as humans, we always want to come back to comfort. And to grow, there's some stretchy discomfort that needs to happen. And this is the best book that I've read on how to handle that. So that's the first one. It's funny, all three books are kind of similar ideas, and you could tell you could kind of assume what I struggled with in my corporate to entrepreneur shift. The second one is How to Stop Feeling Like Shit by Andrea Owen. And she goes into some common things that people go, like people pleasing. God, what are the other ones she had? Some upper limit stuff in there too. It's just like things that make us feel like shit, but shouldn't, and what to do about them. So really how to just feel better in everyday life. And then the final one is Brene Brown's The Gifts of Imperfection. I talk a lot about perfectionism being something that has held me back in life. Well, first it helped me, and then it held me back. And it's something I'm constantly unwinding. And so just this false idea of perfection is something that I think is so important for a lot of us to unwind. And her book is one of the best ones to guide us through that process.
I think this is one of the Brené Brown books that I don't know. So I will read it. And what does she go through there? What are the main insights?
It was one of her first books. It was one of her earlier books. It's really the importance of vulnerability and how being real versus perfect is the way we can connect deeper to other people and also ourselves. And it's, I need to read it again. It was one of those, like, I listened to once a year or so. I was gifted it a few years ago by a friend of mine. And yeah, the underlying, the common theme is, again, kind of that, we think perfectionism is what we're striving for versus the gift is in the vulnerability, is in the imperfection. That's the true connection between us and other people, is in our imperfections.
Yeah, I love this question, being real versus being perfect. As a content creator, as an online course creator, this is such an important question that I ask myself every day, a couple times. Which background to use, which voice to use, a stage voice or the real voice? Like, I'm at home right now, but I'm also like on TV right now. So do I take stage voice or real voice? How much project? The background, what we wear, how much we prepare. We can go for perfection and high quality and high production value. We can go for documentation of the journey, being real, sharing the path, and not even knowing the outcome and the destination, and if we get there. And there is both value in both ways. And how do you see that, and how do you help your clients navigate that?
Yeah, and that's such a great question. And I don't remember where I heard this, but this was the biggest mind shift for me on the topic, is when we strive for perfection, it's all about us and our own ego. It's our desire to look good, to sound good, to be perceived as, fill in your adjectives. Versus when we focus strictly on the impact we get to make on our clients, we take our ego out of it. It's like, it might not be, so it's no longer about how are you perceived. It's about what is the impact you're making on the people you work with. And so really focusing with that in mind. So I sent an email the other day to my list, and I had a stupid grammatical error that I caught, of course, after the email went out. And grammar is one of those things that, like, my perfectionist hat is on strong. So I sat there being like, oh my God, do I need to send a correction? Like, what do I do there? And it was all my ego, right? Like, what are they going to think about me? They're going to think I'm an idiot. They're going to think, she's not qualified. They're going to think all this stuff that probably not a single person thought, because it's, one misuse of an apostrophe, whatever. In the grander scheme of things, it's not too bad, but my ego was so not having it. And so it was really then creating that shift. Like, what, the point of that email was to bring this specific kind of value to the people reading it. And I got that across. Now, adding to that is the concept of excellence. So I do still think there needs to be a level of polish. If that is your brand. I know there's a lot of people who are actually kind of on the, like, they don't want the polish. Their brand is all about more, they're beating their own drum, and it's not polish. I come from the corporate world. So for me, polish means a specific thing. And so for me, it feels good to still have that in there. But even as I say it, I know that's still kind of the perfectionism ego side. It's, if there's no value to the client to it, then It's just about me.
And this is also so important. What is polish, and the volume, because also how often, how much content should we create? Again, something that we discuss in every mastermind, in every community. How much content should I put out per week? Once a week, twice a week, every day? And then there is something that was really freeing us up when Gary Vee said, "Hey, don't create anything, just document." It was so liberating first that a CEO like him can say to all of us, hey, just document. That's valuable per se. But on the other side, if you have the excellence ambition and a certain level of quality, you say, well, but that's not polished enough. It's not, I didn't give my best yet. So when do we know this is valuable and it's for the greater community, so let it go?
Yeah, I think that the documenting, I'm not the biggest fan of Gary Vee. I think he's done a lot of good things for the entrepreneur world. His business model is very, very, very different than probably anyone listening to this right now. So I think that's something we really need to keep in mind when we look at people like him and what works for him. What is Gary selling? At the end of the day, like his business model is very different than ours. So I think it's, he's a lifestyle brand. That is what he is. I'm not. So for me, if I'm just documenting, that's not value to my audience who are looking at ways to grow their business. So, flipping that back to the idea of, is this value to your audience? It may or may not be. And I think that is the first question to ask is there value? And value could be inspiration. It doesn't have to be like bullet points and PowerPoint, right? It could be inspiration, like see what my life, this is what your life could be like as if you do X, Y, Z. This is, what's possible for you. So there is documentation, or like these are the flaw, the mistakes, the pitfalls to look out for. So there's value in documentation, but again, like what is the value to the people, you're creating for them, I think.
This is so crucial. The mission, who are we doing this for? Where are they right now? How can we serve?
Yeah.
And as you say, depending on how we can serve, it can be of best value just to share what we are just experiencing and sharing the journey. Or it might be creating something, putting in many, many hours and days to create something that is so good that it will help.
Yeah. And there's no right or wrong answer. I think as long as we start with a question of what will serve my audience now.
I am so curious. What did you recently change your mind about?
What's so funny? I change my mind all the time. I change my mind about I'm not one of those people who gets an idea and that is it. I'm a lifelong learner, so I just love ideas. So, everything is the best answer I got for you. I think I really couldn't think of a single thing that felt significant, that felt like a significant shift. I'm always just changing my mind.
Are there any habits, routines that help you stay creative, stay on track?
Yeah. My morning routine is non-negotiable. I wake up, I do some meditation and journaling. My phone is on do not disturb until 8 a.m. I'm up around 5. So that's about 3 hours of time that no one else's agenda gets to interrupt mine. So really connecting with my heart, soul, my brain, what's going on inside of me. And then I do whatever I want. So it could be a workout. It could be writing content. It could be, going on Facebook Messenger. It's kind of like I just allow myself to be inspired. And so that really allows my day to start with so much intention and so much focus. And then the other thing that has really been a game changer is whenever I create any kind of content, whether it's free content or stuff for my paid courses, is really visualize my client that my potential client that I'm talking to and where they are, and really, really feel them sitting in front of me or standing in front of me and talk directly to them as I write. not only does it inspire me and make it a much more better feeling process than just like sitting on a computer typing a bunch of stuff, it also ends up being a much more impactful experience for them too, because that energy exchange can be felt for them too.
Do you use always the same client archetype, or do they change?
They actually change. I'm not. I changed my mind on all the things. They're generally similar, but I'll often, especially, so I do my, I enroll into my courses through sales calls, and often I will use people who I spoke to, who I think may have been the perfect client for me, but did not buy, as the inspiration. Like, what did that person need to know more to become my client that maybe, wasn't clear and wasn't going to come across in a phone call? So I love to use that as an inspiration a lot.
Beautiful. I do something very similar. My morning routine is very similar, and then I go running before breakfast, before my kids have breakfast, and so I go running, and I usually listen to podcasts. But at some point, I am touched by something, and it is usually I'm thinking of a friend who has also a business, or a friend, and what I would like them to experience via their business. And then I stop and I do a quick live video.
Oh, wow.
But I really picture this one person. It goes to more persons, but I speak to one, really to one. Mm-hmm. So I like it. And it happens automatically because my heart only connects to one person at a time. That's how I'm wired. I can only speak to one person. But it really is like I am talking to this person, and I never know who's really watching, but I talk to this person. Yeah.
And it's so much more natural for us to do that. We're used to having conversations. And I know so many people, like if they're thinking of doing their first Facebook Live or even recording a course or a webinar or whatever it is, they're like, how do I talk to this vacuum? And it's like, you don't just talk to your best friend, talk to whoever inspires you.
It was so terrifying. The first time we did this show, it was there in my living room, and we had 3 cameras, one cameraman, Laszlo, shout out Laszlo, you are the best. Mm-hmm. So he would come here with 3 cameras, a lot of lights. We would change everything where the couches are and then create a studio out of it. And then I was wearing a tie and a suit 3.5 years ago. Yeah. And then, and I was so nervous, and I would say, Laszlo, who am I speaking to? And he says, look at the camera and imagine you're talking to a friend. Mm. And that was so helpful.
Yeah.
And for months, it felt absolutely stupid to talk to a camera. No person there. But now in the pandemic, it comes in really handy.
We've gotten used to it. Yeah, there's so many things we're all like, yeah, well, this is life now.
Yeah. Now I can talk to any object.
Things you learned in the pandemic, how to talk to objects.
Jane, this is so amazing. Where can people stay in touch with you?
Yeah, so my website is scaledgenius.com, and I always have the latest, even just up on the front page, and you can find my blog there. My freebies are linked to there, and I think, and then down at the bottom is all my social media handles. So that's probably the easiest way to just pop in and learn everything. And I'm on all the social media, so you can search by my name or by the company Scale Your Genius and connect with me in anywhere you want.
This is so cool. And who should be my next guest?
Yeah, my friend Becca Lebov, she's actually a childhood friend. We were cheerleaders together in high school, and she has an amazing marketing, branding, and PR firm also here in Denver. And what I love about the work she does, she used to work for Vail Resorts, Stars Entertainment, some really, really big names. And she's able to take some big business best practices and apply them to, she now works with small businesses, and apply them to small businesses in a way that really helps them stand out from the noise. So she has some really, really awesome branding and PR expertise that she can share that I know people would love.
One last question. How much has being an immigrant coming from the Ukraine to the US shaped you as an entrepreneur?
I talk about it being the American dream, and I think what it allows me to see the opportunities that we have here from a very optimistic abundance view that I think some people who've had this their entire lives don't see the amazing potential that is available, the resources, the support. It is so easy to be an entrepreneur in this country. Coming from a country where you couldn't have your own business at all, I'm just continually in awe of what I am able to create and experience and how supported I get to be in the process. So I think just being aware of the difference of not having anything at all versus having it all, right in front of me, if I choose to claim it, I think has been a really profound gift that I'm able to harness.
I love it. Thank you so much, Jane, for sharing your journey and your wisdom with us, and keep rolling.
Thank you for having me. This was a really fun conversation.
Bye-bye.
Avoid trying to do thousands of things that doesn't work. We have 274 templates for your business success. Reach your ambitious goals with one-on-one sprint coach.